I have always heard about people living double lives, but I don't know I will experience it firsthand. Hi, my name is Sophia Martinez, and this is my story about how I fell in love with a man who was not who he claimed to be, and how that love unraveled into a truth that broke my heart and reshaped my life. It was a crisp autumn evening in Lisbon when I first met Dylan. I was sitting at a small cafe near the Tagus River, sketching the golden hues of the sunset over the water. My sketchbook was my sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in lines and colors. I'd moved to Portugal from New York 2 years prior, chasing a quieter life after a messy breakup and a demanding job in graphic design. Lisbon, with its cobblestone streets and vibrant culture, felt like a fresh start. He approached my table with a disarming smile, his broad shoulders filling out a neatly pressed jacket. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, his voice carrying a faint accent I couldn't quite place, British, maybe, with a hint of something else. His dark eyes were warm, and his presence felt steady, like he could anchor the world. "No, it's free," I said, gesturing to the chair. He sat, and we fell into conversation as easily as if we'd known each other for years. He introduced himself as Dylan Carter, a military officer stationed at a base just outside the city. He was charming, articulate, and carried an air of quiet confidence. He told me he was an orphan, raised in foster homes in London, and that his closest friends, his brothers in arms, had been lost in a recent conflict in the Middle East. His stories were tinged with loss but never self-pity. He spoke of duty, of resilience, and I found myself drawn to his strength. We exchanged numbers that night, and soon, our coffee dates became dinners, then long walks through Alfama's narrow streets. Dylan was everything I hadn't known I needed, attentive, thoughtful, and fiercely private. He didn't have social media, it's all lies, distraction, and deception, he'd say with a dismissive wave, and I respected that. In a world obsessed with likes and followers, his detachment felt refreshing. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. Dylan proposed on a moonlit rooftop overlooking the city, a simple silver ring glinting in his hand. "Sophia," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "you're the family I've never had. Will you build one with me?" Tears stung my eyes as I said yes, believing I'd found my forever. We married in a small ceremony at a registry office, just the two of us and a few of my local friends. Dylan said he had no one to invite, no family or friends left, and I didn't press him. His military life, he explained, kept him busy, often pulling him away for weeks at a time. He'd leave for what he called deployments, returning with stories of training exercises or classified missions he couldn't discuss. I never questioned him. Why would I? His love felt real, his touch warm, his laughter genuine. Our life settled into a rhythm. I worked freelance, designing logos and book covers, while Dylan's military schedule was unpredictable. He'd call from base, his voice crackling over the phone, promising to be home soon. When he was home, he was fully present, cooking dinners, reading poetry aloud, or sketching beside me in companionable silence. We dreamed of a future, a house in the countryside, maybe children someday. I felt safe, loved, and complete. But there were moments, small, fleeting ones, that nagged at me. He never introduced me to colleagues, claiming his work was too sensitive. His phone was always locked, and he'd step outside to take calls. Once, I found a receipt for a flight to Rome in his jacket pocket, dated for a time he'd said he was at the base. When I asked, he laughed it off, saying it was a mix-up from a cancelled mission. I let it go. Love, I told myself, was about trust. It was a rainy afternoon in our 3rd year of marriage when the first crack appeared in my perfect world. I was scrolling through my phone, sipping tea at our apartment's tiny kitchen table, when a post caught my eye. It was from a blog I followed, one that discussed faith and spirituality. The headline read, "The Double Lives of the Devout, When Religious Leaders Betray Their Calling." The article detailed stories of priests and pastors living secret lives, affairs, hidden families, financial scams. It was unsettling, but I didn't think much of it until a commenter mentioned a local priest who'd been spotted with a woman, raising questions about his vows. The comment stuck with me, not because it related to Dylan, but because it highlighted how little I knew about his world. He had no family, no friends I'd met, no past I could verify. His military life was a black box, and I'd accepted it without question. I tried to shake off the unease, but it lingered like a shadow. That evening, I asked Dylan about his day, probing gently. "Just paperwork at the base," he said, his tone casual. "Nothing exciting." I nodded, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Why did his stories always feel vague? Why did he never share photos or mementos from his past? I pushed the thoughts away, chastising myself for being paranoid. But the unease grew. A few weeks later, I was browsing social media, a rare indulgence, since Dylan's disdain for it had rubbed off on me, when I saw a post that stopped my heart. It was from a public group page for a Catholic parish in London. The post was a cheerful birthday message: "Happy birthday, Padre Dylan. Thank you for your service to our community." Attached was a photo of a man in a clerical collar, smiling broadly, surrounded by parishioners holding balloons. The man was Dylan. My Dylan. His dark eyes, his crooked smile, the scar above his left eyebrow, it was unmistakable. My hand shook as I clicked through the comments. "God bless you, Father Dylan," one read. "Our favorite priest," said another. I felt the room spin. My husband, the man who'd sworn he was a military officer, an orphan with no ties, was a priest. A reverend father. I sat frozen, my mind racing. Dylan had told me he didn't have social media, that it was a cesspool of lies. Yet here he was, celebrated online as a man of God. I clicked through the parish's page, finding more photos: Dylan leading a service, Dylan at a charity event, Dylan baptizing a child. The timestamp showed he'd been in London during times he'd claimed to be at the military base. I felt sick. Betrayed. But I needed more proof before confronting him. I spent hours digging, creating a fake account to access private groups, searching for any mention of Father Dylan. I found posts dating back years, confirming he'd been a priest in London long before we met. There was no military career, no fallen friends, no orphanhood. It was all a lie. Dylan came home 3 days later, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, his smile as warm as ever. "Missed you, Soph," he said, kissing my forehead. I forced a smile, my heart pounding. I'd spent those days gathering evidence, screenshots, photos, even an old sermon video where he spoke passionately about faith. The man I loved was a stranger. That night, over dinner, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Dylan," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me, "who are you, really?" He frowned, setting down his fork. "What do you mean?" "I'm your husband." I slid my phone across the table, the birthday post open on the screen. "Then why are people calling you Padre Dylan?" His face paled, but he recovered quickly, laughing. "That's not me, Soph. Must be someone who looks like me. You know how social media is, full of doppelgangers." I opened another photo, this one showing the scar above his eyebrow. "This is you. And this." I swiped to the sermon video. His jaw tightened, his eyes darting to the door as if planning an escape. "It's my twin," he said, his voice shaking. "I didn't want to tell you, but I have a twin brother. He's a priest. I don't talk about him because we're estranged." I stared at him, incredulous. "You told me you're an orphan. No family, no siblings. You've been lying to me for years." He opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence was deafening. Finally, he slumped in his chair, his shoulders sagging. "I'm sorry, Sophia," he whispered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You didn't mean for it to go this far," I scoffed, "so it's true?" I choked out. "You're a priest?" He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I am. I was assigned to a parish in London when I met you. I came to Lisbon for a retreat, and then I saw you, and I fell in love. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought I could leave the priesthood, start over, but it's not that simple." "Not that simple?" I shouted, my voice breaking. "You proposed, Dylan, you proposed to me. You could have stopped at dating, but you went ahead to get married. You married me under false pretenses. You broke your vows, lied about your life, your family, Everything. Who are you? How callous can you be, Dylan? Who are you really? I'm the man who loves you, he said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, my chest heaving. You're a liar, I said. And I can't be married to a liar. The days that followed were a blur of pain and anger. I moved out, staying with a friend while I processed the betrayal. Dylan tried to call, sent letters pleading for forgiveness, but I couldn't face him. The man I'd loved was a fiction, a carefully crafted lie. I filed for divorce, my heart shattered but my resolve firm. I couldn't keep his secret. The hypocrisy, the betrayal, it was too much. I contacted the parish in London, sending them evidence of Dylan's double life. I posted anonymously on social media, sharing the truth about Father Dylan and his secret marriage. The response was swift: outrage from his congregation, calls for his removal. I felt no joy in exposing him, only a hollow sense of justice. Dylan was defrocked within weeks. He tried to reach out one last time, leaving a voicemail: Sophia, I know I hurt you. I never meant to. I loved you, still do. I hope you find peace. I deleted it, tears streaming down my face. A year later, I'm back in New York, my sketchbook open on a new page. Lisbon feels like a dream, a chapter closed. The divorce is final, and I've started therapy to heal from the betrayal. I've learned to trust my instincts, to question what seems too perfect. I'm sketching again, finding solace in art, in the truth of lines and colors. Dylan's lies taught me a hard lesson: love, no matter how real it feels, can't survive on deception. I don't know where he is now, and I don't care. I'm building a life that's mine, one brushstroke at a time.